Yes, now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thomas Rants YouTube channel. I did a video the other day, returning to the channel, reacting to WrestleMania Night 1. This is the follow-up, WrestleMania Night 2. A lot of people said it was by far the better night. I'll be honest, my initial reaction was that Night 1 was better. But that's just me. And maybe it's a bit different, because Night 1 I did watch the morning after. I didn't stay up to watch it, whereas Night 2 I did stay up to watch. And I'll be honest, with Night 1 being 4 hours long, and Night 2 being about 2.5, could we have added another match to Night 2? Yes. Because we already had less matches on Night 2. It was 7 matches Night 1, 6 matches Night 2. There was room for another match. There was room for a Tiffany Stratton, for an Io Sky. And you can't tell me there wasn't any feuds or matches for them to happen, because there absolutely was. Tiffany Stratton has been chasing the United States Championship. There was an opportunity for Io to take on Asuka or Kairi or someone. Seth and Gunther was chucked together. You know, Rey Mysterio and the whole ladder match was chucked together. You definitely could have had another match, especially with how long these matches were lasting. They were all lasting about 5-10 minutes. There was an extra hour of the show that we didn't have, that we had on Night 1. And I thought Night 1 was better for match quality and for a lot of reasons. Now, a lot of things on Night 2 stood out. I think the better match, like the best match of WrestleMania, did happen on Night 2, which is fair enough. So I don't hate the fans' criticism. I really don't. I slightly disagree in certain areas, but that's what we're here to talk about anyway, right? So John Cena made his comeback, obviously as the host, and he said, he's happy people haven't fired him, whatever, let's get ready for Night 2. He showed the graphic change from the apocalyptic, futuristic thing to like the post-apocalyptic, futuristic looking thing. It looked a bit like previous WrestleMania looks in a way, with the blue, but I appreciate it. It's a different spin. I like that at least with these two nights things, they're trying things. Last year they tried 2 different WrestleMania themes. I can't remember if they did that this year or not. I don't think they did, which I'd liked, because I think WrestleMania should just have one theme. But the different looks for both nights, I didn't mind that. And I think if we're going to continue to have 2 different looks, they need to somewhat be related. Like, if we just have the 2 nights be completely different themes, I feel like they'll disassociate from each other and people will treat it like they're 2 different manias, you know what I mean? And people won't look back and think that's the same mania. I think that these are both futuristic, like post-apocalyptic looks. Was kind of cool, had nothing to do with Vegas at all, but maybe it did. And maybe I just wasn't reading between the lines. But let's get into the matches anyway. Femi, Brock Lesnar was the first match out. The most anticipated night. Now, I said that the matches I was looking forward to the most with Drew McIntyre Fatu, which was a very good match, but also just a bit underwhelming and wasn't the most important match of that night. And Oba and Brock, for many reasons. Everyone has loved Oba and Brock. It's been the most exciting matchup, this whole build-up, and they've done fuck all. Like, they've not done promos, they've not had a story. It's literally been Brock wants an opponent for WrestleMania, Oba Femi answers the challenge. Every week they show up and just have a bit of a stare down, a bit of a little scrap. And it's hype, because Oba Femi is the real deal. He's not someone that WWE are just silver spooning, and force feeding to us. He's not someone that is good, but is made out to be better than he is. He is someone that has legit talent, legit power, legit speed, legit good mic work, and like he is a whole package, and he's just made his main roster debut. No one with that little experience should be that good, and I think everyone recognizes that. And I think for once in the wrestling world, every single person is seeing clearly and agreeing on one thing, and that is the potential of Oba Femi. And thank you, WWE, for pulling the trigger, because I'll be honest, like, yes, he was dominant in NXT, he was a dominant North American champion, he was a dominant NXT champion, and I think really the only memorable losses of Oba Femi was when he lost the North American title and when he lost the NXT title, And it seems mental to think that, okay, in this last year, he managed to lose to Ricky Sainz clean, but then go on to beat Brock Lesnar. That's mental, but it's also brilliant. It's perfect, because, especially with what happened after the match, it shows the actual natural progression. It's not about this person has a certain level of prestige, we can't have this person lose. This person's just come up to the main roster, we can't have him lose. No, someone is a young talent with a lot of potential. Brock Lesnar's been around the block. People know how he wrestles. He's just very powerful, and he's the most dominant man in WWE history, you know? He's hard. John Cena couldn't deal with him, you know? Obafemi is the best thing we've seen in years, athletically and physically. So for him to come out power Brock Lesnar doubt himself, and then Obafemi come out in his first ever match, well, not his first ever match on the main roster, but his first PLE match, his first big match, to be at WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar and decimate him the way he did. Well done, WWE, for actually pulling the trigger on a young star. Like, normally WWE overthink these things and never really pull the trigger. I mean, look at Shinsuke Nakamura. Look at Finn Balor. They sort of did pull the trigger. Well, they did pull the trigger on Finn Balor, and then he came back after an injury and nothing. Do you know what I mean? And they're doing that a lot better recently, like with Stephanie McMahon, Trick Williams, and now Obafemi. And to think the one time they've pulled the trigger, it was in possibly the biggest way possible. The only way this could be bigger was if it was for a world title. Like, literally the most dominant man. And that explains why Brock Lesnar did what he did after the match. Talk about jaw-dropping moments. Moments where actually in shock. Like, Paige, I was in shock. But, like, as soon as, like, they said they were going to add someone else, it was like, Brock Lesnar taking off the gloves and taking off the boots and retiring, breaking character, throwing up the X. Brock Lesnar crying. Can we deep that for a second? In 2026, we have seen Brock Lesnar cry. Real tears, real emotions. Like, we all know it's kayfabe and Brock Lesnar's a different person outside of the WWE, but no one ever thought they'd see that on TV. Let's be real. No one ever thought we would see real emotions from Brock Lesnar and like him showing admiration for the fans, him showing care for the fans. Like, I'm not saying Brock Lesnar doesn't care for the fans, but I'm saying the character of Brock Lesnar is like this tough guy who doesn't give a shit. He's here for money and to beat people up. Like, to see that from him, it was actually a special moment. That, like, for a moment like that to come out of nowhere and mean so much was so powerful. The way everyone understood the assignment when Brock Lesnar was just hanging it up and no one wanted him to retire because everyone was expecting SummerSlam, Gunther, Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? Because first of all, it's his hometown, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Brock Lesnar's very synonymous with SummerSlam, but also Gunther did the favour for Paul Heyman. Gunther's been leaning into the fact that he's going to get a favour back from Paul Heyman, and Gunther's not only now retired Goldberg, not only now retired John Cena, but also AJ Styles. There was talk that he was going to retire Ray at WrestleMania. That wasn't the case. A lot of people thought he was going to retire Brock Lesnar, but Obafemi's done it. And to be honest, it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. Gunther retiring John Cena made a lot of sense because John Cena was always the cliche that would just get beat up all the time, but eventually would overcome things, which is exactly what Gunther did, which credit to Sam Roberts for pointing that out. I stole that point from him. AJ Styles was looked at as one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet. Well, if you ask Michael Cole, Gunther's now the best technical wrestler on the planet. So he took the torch from AJ Styles on that one. So when you think about it, Obafemi is probably a better option to retire Brock Lesnar than Gunther. Because Gunther's not the same as Brock Lesnar. Yes, he's big and he's powerful and he can be dominant, but it's in a completely different way. Like, Brock is a bulldozer. He's a powerhouse. He's a brute, whereas Gunther's brutal in a different way. He's technical. He's methodical. It's two completely different things. One's a fighter. One's a wrestler. Do you know what I mean? And Obafemi was the perfect person to retire Brock Lesnar, but we just didn't know it until it happened, and it was a beautiful moment where the way he hugged Paul Heyman, he walked out, and everyone was just giving up for Brock Lesnar. And apparently it was off script and it wasn't in the plan, which just makes it even better. Brock Lesnar's his own man. And if Brock Lesnar says he's retiring, he's retiring. It's a shame it wasn't at SummerSlam in his hometown. I feel like he's missed an opportunity there, but I suppose he probably thought, nah, I'd rather pass the torch to Obafemi than Gunther, which is fair. So that was a shocking moment to start the night. I mean, it's unfair to say I was disappointed in the match, but I was we all expected this from the match anyway. We expected a 2-3 minute, like, not necessarily squash, but essentially a squash. But at the same time, I knew the potential they had, because Brock Lesnar can put on a good match. I mean, especially with young people. I mean, look what he did when AJ Styles wasn't young at the time, but he's put on banger matches with Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns. Obafemi puts on heaters, and I feel like people are going to look at Obafemi like, oh, he's this dominant bulldozer who squashes people. But when he gets a good opponent, look back at his matches in NXT, he could put on bangers. And part of me thought, look, they have a potential to run a 15-20 minute banger here. I think they should do it, but fair enough, I can respect this decision. happy for Obafemi, and I am recording this on Tuesday, so I have seen Monday Night Raw, and I have seen the post show. It's nice to see the direction they're potentially taking Obafemi, is all I'm going to say. It's beautiful to see. And the next match on that first 3 hour was the ladder match, and while it was slapped together, it was just so worth it. Every single one of these people deserved to be on WrestleMania, and it was nice to see Rusev on WrestleMania, because especially the rest of that card, the rest of that match, were all athletic wrestlers, like high flyers. Rusev's the complete opposite. He's a powerhouse, but everyone played an important role. Everyone did some cool shit. I think Dragon Lee, Penta, and Rey Mysterio all having matching gear and doing some unreal sequences that was brilliant. All the ladder spots, like in every match you get 2 or 3 decent ladder spots. These guys said, let's round up all the ladder spots and put them in as one match. JD got backdropped onto the ladder. He got a fucking Mexican Destroyer on the ladder. He hit a Spanish Fly off a ladder. Rey Mysterio put Rusev through a ladder. Javon Evans springboard clotheslined JD off a ladder. He, from the corner of the ring, dived and hit an OG cutter on Rusev, which was a beautiful move, but at the same time I have a bit of a problem with it, because it was, we all know it's scripted, we all know the gig with WWE, right? It's not real, we know that, but at the same time, you meant to try and make it look real. And I think Rusev diving, like essentially just diving off the ladder to land in the cutter, kind of ruined the spot a bit for me, but who cares? It was a cool stunt anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, amazing. And part of me was rooting for Javon Evans in that match, because, I mean, the excitement's there. He's with Trick and with Oba, with how he's being pushed. People resonate with him. I'm not disappointed in Penta retaining, to be honest. I mean, the guy's just got the title and what a retention, and Penta does a lot of cool shit, and he's going to continue to have a cool run. But it would have been cool to see Javon win, but I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. If I had made a predictions video, it would have been between Penta and Javon. And this could have lasted longer. The show was only 2.5 hours. This show was the same length as an episode of SmackDown. We could have ran these matches a bit longer, in my personal opinion. But that's just my opinion. Who gives a shit about that? Am I right? Exactly. Trick Williams and Sami Zayn, which, again, didn't last long. I think this is probably the shortest match of the night. Trick Williams obviously got the win. I don't like how they kind of made Trick, like, obviously, I mean, Trick is meant to be the heel, Sami's meant to be the good guy, but the fans have made it clear who they like, so they've kind of made Trick Williams the babyface, right? They've completely switched it. And the total proper babyface story was Sami Zayn kind of beating up Trick Williams, dominating him, like, yeah, this is a real wrestler. You're young and you're cocky, but I'm a real deal, like, you thought you could make fun of me, you've made my life hell, but now I'm showing you how it really is. I'm on a big stage, and this is your plan. You're getting beaten up by me. And with an involvement from Lil Yachty, Trick hit a couple of moves, and then the trick shot, and then won the title, and that was it. I'm not a fan of them types of matches, necessarily. I don't mind them here and there. If they are like that, I do like them to go a bit longer, so we can tell a bit more of a story than, like, one guy gets beat up the whole time and then hits a 3 moves of doom and gets the win. That's ironic for me to say, given that I'm a major John Cena fan, but at the same time, I was a kid. This was all just to get the title on Trick Williams anyway. People love Trick, and for people to be that happy for Trick winning the title was just everything we needed, to be honest. I'm going to say it again, and I said it in all my previous videos in recent months. This match should never have been Sami Zayn. This match should have been Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams. One, because they've got history that tells a good story, that, yes, they date back to NXT, from being best friends to having the biggest story in NXT in, like, 2024 or 2023, whichever year it was, and then having a match at Stand and Deliver, you know, over the NXT title, where they have good match chemistry. They come up to the main roster, Trick's fighting for the United States title. He could fight his former buddy in a good story and put on an incredible match for Mania. If you really wanted to get Sami Zayn involved because of his involvement with Trick Williams and because you want Sami Zayn on WrestleMania, you could have made it a triple threat match. People were chatting, we want Melo, and Sami gave Carmelo Hayes a rematch. They acknowledged that. They could have added Carmelo Hayes to this match. It would have made it last longer, and it would have been a better match quality. History has shown that triple threat matches, especially at WrestleMania, is like a formula to a 10 out of 10 match. Look at last year's WrestleMania. Rhea, Io, Bianca, and then we had Punk, Roman, Seth, both bangers. Most triple threat matches you go back and look at are amazing. there's a few that probably aren't, but besides the point, We Want Mellow was absolutely necessary for this match. Given that it lacked in every way possible, let's be honest, it wasn't necessarily a good match. So it is what it is. Finn Balor, Demon Finn Balor against Dominic Mysterio. I've talked about attention to detail in the last episode, right? And there was a lot of cool entrances on the show up to this point. I mean, Obafemi had Aura, you know, Penta had his fireworks, you know. Rey Mysterio did his old jump. Trick Williams had the longest trench coat cape thing you've ever seen. But up to this point of the Demon coming out, we hadn't had any entrances that were really like the first night where people were pulling shit out of the bag. And Dominic comes out. He's been calling himself the King of the Luchadors. He's got a bunch of luchadors carrying him on this massive fuck-off throne. Well, they're not carrying him. He's on a moving thing, but it looks like they're carrying him. He's got this huge throne. He's wearing his luchador mask, wearing his AAA title because he claims to be the King of the Luchadors. So that's his gimmick coming in the ring. And then Finn Balor brings back the Demon. And my God, it looks good. He shaved the beard. He brought back the trunks. None of these long fucking tight pants. Fuck off. The paint is unreal. The entrance just... the aura in the entrance, like the feel it has, like it ruined it a bit that it wasn't dark in the arena, but you can't blame, you know, Las Vegas weather, Allegiant Stadium. That's their own stupid fault for doing that. So it didn't look dark, but it still looked cool regardless because the music is just on point. It fits the character amazing. You had these, you know, when he did the you had the streamers pop out on time. It was cool. I mean, the streamers did land in his face and he did have a hard time with them, but it was still cool regardless. You had the big staff with the spiky head on. That again had more streamers phone on it, and he was waving it about. It was such a coordinated, like, cool entrance, and it fit the character so well. Apparently, on the post show or the pre-show, they turned this into a street fight, so it became a street fight, and I think that was kind of the better option considering we had the Demon in this match. It says something that Finn Balor needs the Demon to come back and beat Dominic Mysterio. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of taken away from ordinary Finn Balor himself, and giving Dominic Mysterio a bit too much credit. You know, Santi was right when he said, I don't think it's a good idea to bring back the Demons so Finn Balor can overcome Dominic Mysterio, because then when Finn Balor's not the Demon, it's just going to tell us that he can't even beat someone like Dominic Mysterio, you know what I mean? But I get it. It was WrestleMania. They needed something big. They could have brought it out a better way. Like, they could have introduced it into the story a better way, but it is what it is. And I think the street fight aided that, because the street fight made it equal odds. This meant Dom would have to use weapons to hurt the Demon, because in the first couple minutes he'd already hit a 619 and a frog splash. That's two finishers right there, and he kicked out at one. So it proved how tough the Demon was. So Dom had to resort to using weapons, like hitting him with the chair and putting him through a table to even out the matchup a bit. And again, it didn't last amazingly long, but I don't think it needed to, especially with the Demon. The Demon's meant to be a powerful, dominant guy. And I don't think a lot of people actually cared for this feud, considering this is a feud that's been years in the making. No one actually gave a shit for the feud. People just wanted to see Finn Balor go out on his own and start being successful. So, yeah, I don't think there's massively needed a long amount of time. It ended with the basement dropkick in the corner with the chair wrapped around Dom's head, so his head whacks right off the turnbuckle, and that's just going to hurt. Puts him on a table and hits a coup de grace through a table, which I didn't know was possible. Obviously, it's possible, but I never knew that if they'd do that because of the execution. Like, the way Finn landed, you could see, like, when they landed, his foot, you know, where's Finn going to fall? You know, his foot kind of fell onto Dom's face. But I never thought I'd see a coup de grace through a table, but now you've seen it. So that was a pretty cool match. I'm just happy Finn Balor's back, and I've seen the Raw after Mania where he's beat JD McDonough, and Finn Balor's just back to being Finn Balor. He even moves better. Those long pants, that long beard, and the haircut, and being a heel was holding him back. He was slower as a heel. I mean, that just shows you the level of ring IQ and actual, like, thought he puts into his character and his matches, because he's moving like old Finn Balor. Like, there's an actual difference between babyface Finn Balor and heel Finn Balor. It's amazing. It's actually astonishing. Then we had Rhea Jade Cargill, and while this match actually surprised a lot of people with how good it was, didn't surprise me. I always knew the match potential of this, and in my opinion, the whole reason this match happened was because Rhea and Jade was somewhat of a dream match at one point. I think now that Rhea's not as buff as she once was, it isn't as much. But you know what, it is what it is. And I think it's also because they wanted Rhea on Mania to win a title. You know, she could have had the one-on-one match with Io Sky where Rhea finally beats Io Sky. That could have happened at Mania, but no. Could have took on the Kabuki Warriors? No. She had to take what I thought should have been Raquel Rodriguez's spot and take on Jade Cargill and take the Undisputed WWE Women's Championship. Now, that's my problem with this match. The actual quality of the match, I think a lot of people ate their words with Jade Cargill here. A lot of people don't like Jade Cargill, think she's not good as a character, not good in the ring. And Jade showed how good she can be in the ring. And Rhea's counter, the way she countered the Jaded into the Riptide was beautiful. Io Sky got her moment on Mania, being able to come and attack Michin and be fab. She didn't have a match. It's not really a moment, but at least she was there at Mania. She did something. But I'll be honest, I'm not happy with Rhea winning the title. I think it makes zero sense whatsoever. The only good thing about Rhea winning that title is Rhea going over to SmackDown and having some new people to work with, you know, and splitting up Rio, because that's too much of a dynamic. They're not tag team wrestlers, they're main eventers. I think since Jade's won that title, especially in the fashion she won it, dominating Tiffany Stratton, who was the champion for over 200 days, right? She's walked around the locker room, mean mugging everyone, giving off a dominant character. They've been trying to build her up as dominant. And then even in the build-up to Mania, when she's had someone who's 50-50 with Jade, someone who can match her dominance, she's then got Michin and B-Fab to create more power, and you've still had Rhea beat her. So, dominant title win, walking around being the bitch in the locker room, you know, I'm that bitch, is what she's been calling herself. Then getting some backup as well, and still just losing to singular Rhea Ripley. I just think stupid. I just think, like, what you're going to do now? Are you just going to have them run around as a faction and then do random feuds here and there? Are you going to go back into the feud and then have Jade lose again? Because she's not taking the title back off of Rhea. Yeah, you've built up Rhea and you've given Rhea another title that she doesn't necessarily need. We've seen Rhea win the titles all before. We don't need to say it again. In my opinion, this was the wrong move. I know people are bored of Jade Cargill's reign, but if you're telling me Rhea Ripley being champion's even any more exciting when we've seen her win multiple titles in the 4 or 5 years she's been on the main roster, I can't agree with you. I personally can't. I think it would have been a better move to have Jade retain, right? Get that heat, right? You want heat, and then be a dominant champion, continue to be dominant. Eventually, maybe Rhea could take it off her down the line. But I think first match, WrestleMania, like, especially when Jade's just made this faction, to lose it straight away, I think they've killed every bit of momentum they made for it, in my opinion. But that's not my job. That's the producers and in WWE and the storytellers and the writers. That's for them to figure out how to fix. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Now we've got Rhea as an undisputed WWE champion. You can confidently have Cody Rhodes retain against Randy Orton when Cody Rhodes should never have been WWE champion and Randy Orton should have absolutely been WWE champion. You can have Cody Rhodes retain, but you can't have Jade Cargill retain against Rhea Ripley, who no one actually wanted to see as champion. They're just happy because they like Rhea Ripley. This match made so much more sense as Raquel Rodriguez. I mean, she was chasing a world title against Stephanie Vaquer. It was coming up so short every time. And then Liv returns and takes her spot in that. And then she's got to follow around Liv while she's won the Rumble, checking out both champions, Stephanie and Jade Cargill, backing her up, eyeballing these champions, getting in matches with these champions, while Liv makes her choice which one she gets to fight. And while Liv chose Stephanie, Jade and Raquel, and you talk about matchups, you know, Jade and Rhea being a matchup. Well, Jade and Raquel, two powerhouses, is a matchup. And I think Raquel going after Jade Cargill would have been better story-wise. This would have built up Raquel. We've seen her do a lot more on her own in recent months. We've seen her win a lot more matches and achieve a lot more. And I think this match would have been more interesting to have Raquel do that. Because let's talk scenarios here. If Raquel won the title off of Jade Cargill, she'd have to go over to SmackDown, right? Well, Finn's just left Judgment Day. Now Raquel's going to leave Judgment Day. And especially with all the original members like Edge, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Finn Balor all being gone, Judgment Day can just fizzle out. Because let's be honest, now that all their members are gone, no one gives a fuck about Judgment Day anymore, right? I think we'd rather see Roxanne, JD, Raquel all go solo. Liv and Dom can stay together if they want, but I think the Judgment Day story is finally done. People have been saying that for a few years now, and I've not always agreed, but now I do think it is done. And so if she did win the title, she could have went other brand and done that, and that's how they split, and they didn't have to do a whole storyline about it. But then if she didn't win the title, while Liv has, she could get jealous. And I've seen the Raw after Mania. I was expecting Raquel Rodriguez to turn on Liv Morgan. She hasn't, you know? And I'm just thinking, you were so close to winning that title. Liv comes along and takes that spot and then wins the title. Like, that's a perfect story to tell there. Especially with how well Raquel's been working in recent years. And I think people respect her as a good competitor now. It would be a good babyface story, you know? I think we've seen her for being a babyface a bit, but she's always done better as a heel. I think telling a babyface story here would have been a good idea, in my opinion. But no, they had to go with Rhea Ripley. It is what it is. We can't dwell about it. It's all done now, but that's how I would have booked it, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that wasn't the right match for WrestleMania. And before our main event, we had John Cena come out again, you know, to do the attendance record and be like, you know, do something before the main event. Out came The Miz with Kit Wilson, and I thought, yeah, we'll go. Immediately, I knew this is the Danhausen spot, because there was no way they weren't going to do something with Danhausen. The Miz and Cena, this is quite ironic. They've had 2 WrestleMania matches together, shared a lot of history. The Miz has been a host before. Miz hasn't got a match for Mania. Out comes Danhausen with a bunch of midgets. Has a funny segment with The Miz and Kit Wilson. Genuinely, I think Danhausen's funniest segment. The midgets punch Kit Wilson in the balls after he called them toxic and pushed one over. And then The Miz starts beating up all the midgets. And Danhausen hits Miz in the balls. Hits a 5-knuckle shuffle, which John Cena gave him permission to use. 5-knuckle shufflehausen. And then all the little midgets carry Miz away. Danhausen has this moment with John Cena, because he already expressed he was a fan. And then he went, "You can't see me," to John Cena. And Danhausen normally has the gimmick of just disappearing, because in backstage, they'll just pan the camera to the people on the right. He'll run off camera, they'll pan it back, he's gone. Right? Danhausen's disappeared. Oh, where did Danhausen go? And obviously when he's out there in the ring, they've already showed where the lights will go out, Danhausen won't be in the ring, but then they'll cut and you'll see him running away, and it'll be a funny moment. But obviously we've had no darkness this whole WrestleMania. Oba Femi's entrance was meant to be dark, I'm pretty sure. Finn Balor's entrance was meant to be dark, but it's too light. It's still daytime in Las Vegas because you've made a 2-hour WrestleMania show. It's Allegiant Stadium with the big open roof and all these lights. So when the smoke bombs went off, even though they might have switched off some lights, it's still bright as fuck in there, you know? So Danhausen hasn't moved anywhere. And I can't tell if it was on purpose or if it was a botch, but either way, it was hilarious. So credit to them. John Cena's just dying laughing at this point. Danhausen runs out the ring. Camera literally follows him. He runs as if he's off camera. Camera follows him, watches him go under the ring and all the little midgets, and everyone loves it. It was an amazing moment. It was like the best moment ever. John Cena's cracking up, and yeah, that, to me, like, there's a lot of like WrestleMania segments, mainly with The Miz most years, that are just, it is what it is, but that was hilarious. But then we got to our main event. Now this was Big Fight Field. Now we all know the build-up to WrestleMania has been shit, besides Oba Brock and most of Roman Punk, right? And the kind of underlying story they've been telling you, although they've been button heads, and Punk's been calling out Roman Reigns for what he doesn't do, you know, and what sets Punk apart from Reigns. Reigns has been calling out Punk for being a hypocrite and a liar, you know. It both had great points. I think Roman eventually put the nail in the coffin with what he said, with how he called out all the lies that CM Punk has told, to the point that CM Punk apologized and became a bit honest and personal with him, which then led Roman to do the same. The underlying story they've been telling here is, we understand your fans' frustration. We understand the frustration with TKO and how business is going. We're going to restore this, you know? And they've kind of painted the picture that Roman's the corporate guy and, you know, he's the spoon-fed one. He's the one who's about business, right? And CM Punk he's the one who's about the fans. He's the one that wants to show up every week and just put on a good show, right? But secretly, they're both the same. They both want the best for the fans, because Roman Reigns And I'm sorry if you disagree with this, right? Because I'm sure there was some producers and writers and lots of other people that deserve credit. But if we're talking about on screen, the very reason the Renaissance era, I'm talking 2022, 2024, the very reason the Renaissance era of WWE exists was because of Roman Reigns, because of the tribal chief, because of the bloodline story, because of that 1,000-day reign. He won that title in 2020. Between then and 2022, he'd already established a dominant reign. People started getting hooked on how dominant was he going to be? How many times was he going to retain? And every single time he was putting on a match, it was banger after banger after banger, right? And every time we thought he'd lose, and he wouldn't. Drew McIntyre, we thought he'd lose. John Cena, we thought he'd lose. Logan Paul, we never thought he'd lose to Logan Paul, but fuck me, he had us worried. Logan Paul put on a banger with Roman Reigns. Still to this day, I think is Logan Paul's best match. Like, yes, he put on a banger with John Cena, but I still think the Roman Reigns match in 2022, his first 6 months of wrestling, his best match ever. Do you know what I mean? The Renaissance era was because of Roman Reigns and that gimmick. Everything else came along with it, don't get me wrong. When the tribal chiefs and the bloodline story started taking off, WWE started paying attention to other things, and all these good changes came because of that. And then we got WrestleMania 40 because of Roman Reigns and that tribal chief gimmick. Because of the bloodline story, we got WrestleMania 40. And it wasn't just Roman. Seth was involved. Cody was involved. The writers, the producers, everyone was involved. But it was Roman Reigns was at the head of it. And although they're trying to pretend like Roman's the corporate bad guy, we all know Roman Reigns is the reason we came back to wrestling. That's why no matter what gimmick, no matter who you have him face, when Roman Reigns comes back, people are interested. People make noise. People throw up their fingers. And I think that's what Roman Reigns has been alluding to. When Roman Reigns went on that interview and said, WWE has made no stars whatsoever, it's time for me to come back and take down the biggest guy, he wasn't being literal. CM Punk is a major star. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, all major stars. But no one has quite had the impact that Roman Reigns had as a single wrestler, because WWE in that Renaissance era up to WrestleMania 40 was put on this pedestal. And yes, I've pointed it out many, many times before, and so has every other wrestling YouTuber. We cannot get WrestleMania 40 again. Not for a very long time. WrestleMania 40 is going to be the best thing we're going to have in years. And it's not because everything else we get is bad. It's just because it had such a good standard, because all the little bricks fell into place so perfectly because of years of work, that we got a perfect moment. Unfortunately, these next few years are now going to have to be building to another perfect moment. You know, and we might not get it because of how certain things work out. But WWE has been heightened since then. WWE, in the last 3-4 years, has been the most popular it has been since the Attitude Era. Probably, maybe even bigger because of how media works these days. And it's amazing, right? And at the same time, we get a lot of new wrestling fans. We get a lot of social media wrestling fans, a lot of IWC, who see a lot of sometimes questionable decisions. And yes, a lot of us wrestling YouTubers and people who care about wrestling will have our opinions on things, but we'll never stop watching. We'll never stop caring, right? How many times in recent years have we watched these things happen in WWE and go, I didn't like that decision? But then it makes it all the better when we see a good decision happen, right? They've made a lot of questionable decisions. And TKO, yes, in the recent 6 months have been fucking things up really badly, right? And WWE's kind of been doing a bit of a slight decline, right? But it's still been at the level that it has been the last 3-4 years, because people are tuning in and watching, because people are interested, because there is intrigue, right? It can't be that bad if we could name 30-40 wrestlers that are the best thing in the world. Do you know what I mean? And I genuinely think we could. I think before the Renaissance era, we could name about 4 or 5 wrestlers that are like, he's amazing to watch. He's like the best thing ever. We could do that with almost all the wrestlers now, and it's fantastic, right? So Roman Reigns coming back to take that title was WWE acknowledging, okay, we see things are in a bad place. Let's try and take things back to a good place. Let's put Roman Reigns back on top again, because we know we can deliver with that. There's still untapped story potential with that, like Jacob Fatu on the Raw after Mania. There's still untapped story potential with that, and we can trust it. And that's why after Roman won the title, he went on the post-show and he said, this part-time stuff, okay, I hear you, Punk, you had a point. I hear the people's frustration. Let's turn it up, because Roman Reigns did that incredible storyline on a part-time. He did that part-time. If he's doing this shit full-time now, brother, it's wraps. He's already called out Obafemi. We already know we're getting him, Jacob Fatu, at Backlash. The Usos are aligning with him. Think of the potential matchups. Braun Breaker's back. Seth Rollins is still there. Gunther, do you know what I mean? Like, it's beautiful. And I think while a lot of people back CM Punk, there was a reason CM Punk got booed at WrestleMania when he came out, because everyone knew what needed to happen. Everyone knew what wanted to happen. We wanted Roman Reigns. And CM Punk, yes, he does show up every week. Yes, he's an incredible wrestler. And yes, he's done a lot of great things in his past. And for his age, to still be wrestling at the level he is wrestling at, hats off. You have to be. Love him or hate him as a person. You know, I like him as a wrestler. Sometimes I don't like the wrestler. Sometimes the person, he's a bit hit or miss. But that's besides the point. I can always respect what CM Punk has done in the WWE. And he does show up every week. And he is there more than Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns is perfect for that title. CM Punk's had that title 6 months. 6 months. He's defended it like 3 times. Do you know what I mean? So he showed up every week, but how many times have we got a world title match? And how many of them were really memorable? Finn Balor was memorable because we were in disbelief that we actually got a Finn Balor match. Besides that, what other match was there? Okay, there was the Braun Breaker one. Apart from that, what was it? Like Jey Uso? Do you know what I mean? Like, CM Punk is a great wrestler, but WWE, because of the stature of CM Punk being there every week, have not capitalised on him being a world champion. Roman Reigns is going to get capitalised on. And we all want to see Roman Reigns with the big gold title. We've seen him carry around the Undisputed WWE title. That Undisputed WWE title is like 4 titles in one, because it's the WWE title and the Universal title. And the WWE title was the World Heavyweight title and the WWE title put into one, made into one WWE title. Right? So that's already 2 titles in one. Then he's captured the Universal title, put 3 titles in one for the Undisputed WWE title. And the World Heavyweight title that I have now was made to be a separate world title because Roman Reigns had both world titles and no one could take them off him. And Roman Reigns always called that title the B title. But because of how things are being booked, it's kind of the A title now. So Roman Reigns has come to claim it. And we've got that one-on-one match with CM Punk with all that history that they have. And it was so worth it. It was so worth it because that was the best match of Mania. You know, night 1 I was like, Seth Rollins, Gunther, undoubtedly the best match of that night. We'll get to night 2. The ladder match is a good runner-up, but that main event, and if any match should be the best match of Mania, it should be the main event of night 2. Because the main event of night 1's cute, but it's not the main event. Main event is night 2, right? Simple as that. For them to just wrestle, right? Yeah, they did leave the ring. Yeah, they did use an announce desk and stairs that technically Roman Reigns should have got disqualified for, but the referees love to point out that, not the referees, the commentators love to point out that the referee's using a bit of discretion here because it's the main event of WrestleMania. There was no interferences, even though there could have been the Usos. There could have been everyone get involved. There was no involvement. It was just them two going at it, battering each other. It was back and forth. There was moments I thought, oh shit, Punk's going to win. There was moments I thought, oh shit, Roman's going to win. And they didn't just, you know, wrestle for 15 minutes and then get to a finisher like the rest of the show. They battered each other until CM Punk was bruised and bleeding, and it was believable blood. And when you see CM Punk after the show and on the Raw after the show, there's still scars there left from that because Roman Reigns was beating him up, and there was moments where Punk was outsmarting Reigns, and yes, Reigns beat up Punk a lot and bloodied him up and battered him. CM Punk would have these moments where he just come out of nowhere, hit him with big moves, like he elbow dropped him through the table, and then hit him with a GTS, and then went to hit him with the second one, and then we just got out of it. It was an incredible match. It was beautiful. The story was good, and the match was good. And yes, we already had a story prior to this match between Roman Reigns and CM Punk that even spanned back a year, back to last Mania, you know? And since then, they've still been eyeballing each other all up until this Mania. But if there was no story and we just had this match, the match itself would have told a story. The match itself would have told a story. Remember what I said about Seth Rollins and Gunther? Like, these two had no ties 3 weeks ago, but they've been put together for Mania and they put on an incredible match, and the match told a story because 2 good competitors with enough time in the ring will tell a good story. And you could have gotten rid of every aspect of history in this match, and that match still would have meant a shit ton. And it was lovely to see Roman Reigns back on top. It really was, like, genuinely. Like, that made me respect CM Punk even more. Because I sometimes have my issues with CM Punk, right? And then when Roman Reigns gets involved and he's feuding with Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns isn't defending himself as properly as he can, because I know the significance of Roman Reigns, it makes me hate CM Punk even more. And I'm even more on the side of Roman Reigns. So to see how that match went and see Roman Reigns just get his win clean, Punk not, kick off about a Punk, just take the loss, makes me respect CM Punk even more for putting on such an incredible match and just giving them what we needed. That was what we needed from Mania, And I think while there is some issues like short matches and a couple little details here, I think build-up compared to Mania, the Mania was way better than the build-up. The build-up was shit, but it paid off in the end for Mania. This Mania was better than last year's Mania. I'm going to say that. Not in every aspect, because the main events of last year's Mania, not the Cena Cody one, but the main event of night one and the triple threat match between the women was still better matches than any match that's happened. Well, maybe not Roman Punk. But Mania as a whole, especially because of the way they went out and the way they came in, this was a better Mania than last year. And last year had a better build, It's not Mania 40 level, but nothing's going to be Mania 40 and probably until we're in Mania 50s or 60s, So it is what it is. That's my opinions, though. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Make sure to follow me on all the socials. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.